Our planet is warming up faster at the poles. The average temperature is rising twice as fast in the Arctic as it is globally. And we are losing Arctic ice at a rate of 13% a decade. The world's northern indigenous populations depend on cold winters for their livelihoods. The Sami, an ancient population indigenous to the northern parts of Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Russia, are seeing their way of life threatened by these changes. But global warming is not the only challenge facing the Sami people. The Sami people have lived in Europe since the middle of the 2nd century BC, and for these last 3.5 millennia they have maintained their culture and way of life. The Sami people are reindeer herders, and they have traditionally wandered their territory with their herds as they migrate to fresh grazing pastures. Today about 10% of Sami herd reindeer for their entire livelihood, but even families who have other sources of income rely on the reindeer for most of their food. Cold winters are important as the reindeer need to be able to reach grasses and lichen under powdery snow. With the rise in Arctic temperatures, there are thaws, and then when the ice refreezes, it creates a hard shell over the reindeer's food sources. Herders then must supplement the reindeer diet with cattle feed. This adds expense and effort to an already difficult life. Over the last century, Sami culture has also been under threat. They have faced discrimination by Europeans who tried to ban the language and force the Sami to assimilate. And the pattern continues today. Even though Sami are recognized as a distinct cultural group, a 2016 report by the United Nations concluded that Sweden, Norway, and Finland do not fulfill their stated objectives of guaranteeing the human rights of the Sami. This report also highlights the negative impacts of the resource extraction industry, such as mining and timber, on Sami livelihoods and cultures. The report also criticizes the lack of consultation with the Sami and the difficulties faced by the Sami to demonstrate land ownership. Where Sami rights and global warming collide most dramatically is in the green energy industry. In 2016, Norway began construction of a wind farm on land used for reindeer winter grazing. Despite calls from the United Nations and other international human rights organizations to halt the project till a study on the wind farm's impact could be conducted, Norway proceeded with construction. Development of windmill projects in Norway has been increasing, and the Sami have observed that the infrastructure required in these projects disrupt the grazing patterns of the reindeer and decrease the available land for grazing. Sami agree with the need to develop sources of energy that will not contribute to global warming. They make the valid point that they have contributed very little to the world's greenhouse gas emissions, yet they are paying the price for it with their culture and livelihoods. Luckily, the Sami are not alone in this opinion. The Sami have been joined by a coalition of environmental activists adding support to their cause, and the UN continues to speak up for the Sami. And recently the Sami have filed lawsuits against companies that have not been given concessions to build wind farms on their lands. While they have not yet been successful, increasing public awareness will hopefully mean that the Sami will not be trapped between the effects of global warming and the efforts to stop global warming.